All right, guys, so today's video is going to be ridiculous, but we need to go into the very weird things that they changed on the 2024 versus the 2020, which is right there. That one you can take home. Greeted with the 2024, that's right here in front of us. We're also being greeted with a set of wheels that Left Lane just finished up. Super sick, brand new set of 2412 concave American Force, new design. I think it's called the Frost. We did a full wet black and then we dressed them up with copper inlays to match that suspension I talked about in the last upload. Wow, talk about a good looking truck. We got double Denali fever. Let's get these things lined up so we can do a little chat.
Family first, that's my culture. Raised by the lions, surrounded by vultures. Ay, tell them that nobody's safe. Gotta put food on the plates. Right now I'm taking the safe. Whoa, wait, I just been doing the race. I just been catching the cases, and it's already too late. People say he diabolical. Right now I'm feeling unstoppable. Learn to avoid all the obstacles. Block it get hotter than tropical.
I've been looking forward to making this video because some of the findings you're probably going to think are completely ridiculous. And I would have to agree. Some of the findings that I've identified and the differences between the 2020 GMC Denali that's been my previous daily driver that you now have a chance to take home with $30,000 cash, and the 2024 Denali HD that I've been daily driving for the last, I don't know, 1,000 miles, actually have some really bizarre, distinct differences, and those are the things that I want to call out to you guys today in this upload. All right, but for comparison's purpose, let's take a look at these beautiful trucks together side by side. DDG32, it is their pearl white, whereas the 2024 is actually Summit white. So you guys can get kind of a small comparison difference between that of the lack of metallics and the very metallic with the gold flake in the Frost Tri-Coat. I really like that color a lot. They made some adjustments to this color versus that of the previous generation L5Ps, and I think even earlier than that, the LMLs. It used to be more of like a yellowish color, and now it's really more of a, like almost like a gold, like a really like gold. It's a freaking beautiful color, especially all paint matched like this truly one-of-a-kind truck is. But then again, my heart really lies with Summit White because the OG Duramax was Summit White. That was my first Duramax diesel. And of course, it's just super simple. It's super clean. It doesn't really have hardly any metallic in it at all. It's sanitary, it's white, it's sterile. It looks fantastic. And obviously having them both next to one another, it would be very difficult to choose. I probably actually would have gotten this color on this truck, but being that it's an added RPO option when you're ordering these things up, it wasn't made immediately available because the most popular colors that are sold in Denali are black, being number one, and then white being number two. So GM, especially for these early allocation models, basically just offered out the most popular colors first. So that's why I chose this one. Now, from the outside looking in, you wouldn't really think that there's all that many differences between the trucks because in one of my previous uploads, I kind of said that they basically took the platform and didn't really change anything. Obviously upgraded the interior, but on the exterior, right, it's the same chassis, it's the same doors, it's the same fenders with some minor adjustments. Actually, yeah, some minor, I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. It looks like this fender section right here and that fender section right there are almost the same. But anyway, they still had to make some adjustments to the pieces, the canards, the way that the grill inserts, etc. So the front end, and then of course on the taillights, they made some minor adjustments, but I think you can probably take these taillights and put them in this truck and vice versa. There's probably some degree of interchangeability. But after putting just under 1,000 miles on this truck, like 967 miles to be exact, I did identify a few very weird changes, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's upload. All right, so first thing being first, if I want to go unlock this truck, I can hit this button and we are in service. We're powered up. We're ready to rock and roll. We have access. I do not have a button back here though. Now, I'm not going to beat on a dead horse with this one. I mentioned it in my previous upload, but I wanted to confirm that this is the first weird change between trucks because on this Denali, I've got my button right here, and then I've got my button back here. So you have 4 points of access wherever that access might need to be. So what happens here is if this truck is locked, let me grab the keys because it won't lock the keys inside. We will lock it. I have that feature turned on so they fold in automatically. All right, we are locked now. You hit it once, your back door unlocks, your front door unlocks. You're good to go. Whereas if you come over to this truck, let me grab the keys. We're locked. You hit the button once, it unlocks the back, and unlocks the front, but you have the ability to lock it from the back. So you're locked and ready to rock and roll. If you have children, or if you have groceries, or if you have anything you need to throw in the back, you don't have to go here to unlock the door to go here. and to get in, right? To gain access. That's really my only thing. I personally really got used to having this little button on the back doors versus this truck not having it. So it's kind of just one of those reminders because I've already caught myself doing this a few times. All right, now number 2 is probably the weirdest thing that any manufacturer could have ever changed, and I think only those that are most aware would ever notice. It comes down to the senses, to the touches, to the feels, right? You get kind of accustomed to your cockpit as you're operating a vehicle, especially after you've spent some tenure in one. You've gotten accustomed to pretty much every degree of its mechanical operation possible. So here we go. I'm gonna put you guys right here to see if you see it. It has some relation to the steering column. All right, so take a good long look. There's also the 30 grand cash that comes along with this truck if you decide to enter for a chance to take it home. We're keeping that nice and safe for you. So take a good long look in this general area. Here, I'll even shed a little bit of light on the situation. Take a good long look. See anything? No? You're good? All right, now let's take a walk over here to the 24. Do you see anything different? Okay. Now, let's take a measurement. Now, for the record, I noticed this almost immediately, and I was kind of proud of myself for doing so. This is gonna be kind of hard. I'm actually gonna put the window down here. Here's my official means of measurement. I'm going to take this part of my hand and I'm going to wrap it around the steering column right here. Just like this. That is going to be my official point of reference. I am making multiple points of contact. I have a good lateral contact point here, and I have an anchor right here in the corner of my hand. I am now going to rest my finger down here onto, fully extended by the way, okay? We are all the way out, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go, my point, right there, okay? We are at about 1/3 into my finger length, official measurement for the record, okay? So it's a nice little contact point. You know, you're driving, you give it like a nice little extension here. If I'm not fully extended, it's kind of just the tip of my finger. It's comfortable, but for my record measurement, we are kind of right about 1/3 in on the finger. We can grab this thing, it's comfortable, it's accessible, it's good and ready to rock and roll. Now, if you're in the high beam position, or the low beam position, it really doesn't change anything, okay? This thing always bounces back to where it originates. It's not like you can push it or stick it forward. These are more smart sensors. That's where we're at. Climbing on into the 24. Let's do the same thing here. Same point of reference, okay? We are anchored, same steering wheel, fully locked out and extended. We are at the tip of my finger right now. Now, look, it's in its normal resting orientation position. It's not gonna change. I am all the way hyperextended right now. Like, I'm even kind of semi-flex and no gun shows here. So in my normal resting position, if I want to grab this thing, it's actually somewhat a little bit out of reach, which is kind of bizarre. So you really have to notice yourself like reaching for this thing, maybe even using your middle finger that's a little bit longer to get the added dexterity that you need to get to this shift selector. So I don't know, but it's a difference, and it's kind of a big one because you kind of need to use a different finger versus that front finger, especially if you're short-fingered. You're not going to be able to touch where you need to get. So I don't really know if I have an explanation for that, but being that you're driving this thing and you're operating all of its mechanics, that one became readily apparent very, very quickly. So that's difference number 2. Difference number 3 is something that just happens, what seems like to be in these generations of trucks as they come in, they come out. Technology, right? So like dating back, I think that for anybody born in the 90s, you can remember your parents talking about 8-tracks, right? My dad still has some 8-tracks. And then it went to like vinyl discs, records, right? Record music. And then you get your record players. And then all of a sudden the cassette player comes out and you get your cassette tapes. And then all of a sudden it's a CD and you're burning your own CDs off LimeWire and you're getting viruses on your mom's computer. And then all of a sudden the MP3 digital media format file rose to the ranks and you get these cool little like MP3 players. But then the iPod came out and kind of just disrupted all of it, right? And now you're getting all these different charging ports and these features of being able to charge your device. You go back into the K2XX model, you have no USB-C. You get into these new trucks, you now have USB-C, you have USB, and you have 12 volt. Then you get into these new trucks, and then you don't have one of those means of charging anymore. Check this out. All right, so in this truck right here, you actually have USB-C, USB, and an aux cord plug-in right here in the middle. You also have the means of putting, I don't really even know why this is here, but you can put an SD card in for whatever reason. Then here in the front, you can see I actually have my next-based dash cam set up. That's wired in temporarily until this thing goes off to its next owner. I like to have dash cams in a majority of my vehicles. Also, check out that new 2024. Sam actually just got one in. That one actually came out from Laura Buick GMC as well, so continued shout out and support to those homies over there in Collinsville, Illinois. If you guys are looking for one of these 2024s, definitely give them a buzz. They've got so many that are in their pipeline. I can't attest to them being readily available, but they can probably get you one quite quickly. So anyway, I have this thing plugged in. I've got my 12 volt here, my USB, my USB-C, but then you come up around to the new truck and you're greeted with only USB and USB-C here kind of in the center. I think the position of it makes a little bit more sense. Open things up, kind of the same thing, USB, USB-C, but you no longer have an aux cord and you no longer have a 12 volt means of plug-in. You do have your 110 DCT that you have to have the truck on to use, which is obviously kind of nice, but no longer do you have any means of plugging in your 12 volts. So the next base dash cam, for instance, I would buy a hardwire kit. I'd pull off the interior fuse panel, I'd hardwire it in, and it'd be ready to rock and roll. Whereas with that one, you could kind of run the cord up and around the thing, plug that in, and call it a day. Either way, it's not an option for these new trucks, in which they completely discontinued that. And that's honestly kind of what happens here as these technologies rise to the ranks and then fall. It's very much a trend until the next better thing comes out, and the automotive manufacturers are kind of always trying to hold on to the series of technology that's like 2 waves behind. So you get your, your 12 volt and then the USB, now USB-C, and who knows what's going to come out next. And then you always find that you get into like a K2XX truck and you only have USB and not USB-C. You kind of grow accustomed to these things, but then they just take it away from you. All right, so those are the not so obvious differences between the trucks, but I figured while I'm making this video, it would be a really good opportunity to just highlight some of the things that I do believe GM did make some improvements upon with the new, especially interior changes on this truck. But before we get to the interior changes, I do want to especially touch on like the comfort and convenience. We'll get to there in a second. I do think that it's pretty cool to note that GM actually stole an aftermarket idea where we put switchbacks in these headlights, which otherwise didn't come factory with switchbacks, because this was your turn signal. Now this entire thing and this little light feature are your turn signal. They did factory switchbacks on the truck. They also realized they can get a lot of really efficient use light out of a projector being down in the bottom there versus having kind of like this multi-honeycomb style fog light, although they were quite bright. These are really honestly much, much better. As far as performance features go though, really that's kind of the only thing on the exterior. They have some sequential stuff, which is kind of cool from the factory. I dig it. But I think the one big complaint when this body style came out, although you know what guys, it was a complaint, obviously competitors like Ford 2022, they came out with their revised interior, and then of course dating back, Ram came out I think 2019 with the 5th gens with the interior. Everyone kind of wanted GM to do that, but although it wasn't big, it works really well. This screen isn't huge, but the functionality, the clarity, the speed of it are all very good. Everything works extremely well, and although this isn't super crazy fancy, all fully digital, blah 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 blah, it works really well. It's clear white, nice LEDs. It functions well. Although these seats were complained to be quite hard, I will say that after I put some miles on this very truck myself, and then my previous Summit White one before this, they work extremely well. I've grown quite accustomed to the Duramax platform because I've pretty much just daily driven Duramaxes with the exception of Convict for quite some time, and I really genuinely do love them. But for those of you that might be on the fence about going with this body style and then, maybe even spending just a little bit more money and getting into this new 2024, I will tell you that, and I'm just testifying to the ultimate, the interior quality, especially the seat comfort, is like intergalactically different. The material composition is much better. The plushness, the softness, the venting of the seat is much better. I mean, the overall feel and condition of even like the material around the wheel is much better. There's even more padding kind of here in the center console, which makes it just feel as if it's more of a higher quality truck for what it is that you're buying. Obviously, all the updated screens and all that is quite nice. It's like a cockpit feel. It is very, very nice to say the least. And then the massaging seat feature in the 24 is way better than that of the Ford massaging seats, just in my personal experience. I've planted this ass in a lot of Ford seats over the years, and I got to finally plant my ass right in this seat right here. And I will tell you that their massage functionality is significantly better. It has multi-patterns, gives you the ability to kind of go up and down in a linear motion, gives you the ability ability to kind of hit two sections at one time, or you can actually kind of crisscross them depending on whatever it is, the mood that you're in. I felt like of all those 967 miles that I drove in that truck, I had those massaging seats on pretty much all the time. Those are the big differences that I know. To anybody that's had a 2020 and then upgraded to a 2024, whether Ultimate or not, who really cares? Are there any other differences that you have pinpointed? Now, the final difference is, and I'm not going to speak technically on any of this, but their performance. Obviously, this truck makes a little bit more power than this truck on paper. They always do that every year, whether it's incremental or substantial gains. The turbos actually look different in this truck versus in this truck. And I will tell you that this one versus this one, stock to stock form, makes way more turbo noise, actually, like from like a slow roll initial acceleration perspective, than this truck did when it was completely factory. I also did notice that this thing feels significantly torquer stock to stock comparison. It feels like it gets off the line a lot faster. The turbo definitely ignites quicker, it spools quicker, and it seems like it's a little bit more efficient. So there is that difference as well. I don't really feel like they made too many changes between the 10-speed transmissions, although I'm sure that they say they upgraded the tunes. I'll tell you what, the 10 speeds in both of these trucks are absolutely freaking out of this world amazing. Previous generation Allison's also great, but I'll tell you what, the 10-speed in these trucks is been done the best out of all the manufacturers in my personal opinion. GM definitely copied Ford in a lot of ways, but luckily they didn't copy Ford based on their tuning, because these guys definitely got it way better right off the get-go. Now, if you decided to make the leap from your 2020 to 2023 up to a 2024, are there any other differences that you want to let my subscribers know about? Drop them down in the comments below. I got a series of other really great and juicy uploads in the queue for you guys that I'm gonna be working on here over the next few days, so definitely don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Grab your entries for Dream Deals giveaway number 32, my Denali and 30 grand. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I love and appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you all in the next upload.